I have tried to make this video multiple times over the last couple years. I keep going into a little too much. I'm going to try to condense what's important to know for context of a decent amount of this and why it's important I'm talking about it and speaking up. For context, I've known that I was transmasc since I was 11 or 12 years old. I wasn't able to actually express myself safely until I moved out, which is when I got confronted by Kainen Vtuber, also known as Kainen Harlow, and from now on I will call him Kainen Harlow for ease of knowing who I'm talking about. I moved out literally not even like 1 to 2 weeks after he reached out and confronted me and threatened me to change everything about myself to make himself feel better about himself. Also, to add to that, since he is a Twitch partner, he was able to convince Twitch somehow, some way that I was impersonating him. Twitch served me a impersonations via username violation on my Twitch account, and since then it just hit the 2-year mark of when I had received that violation and have been serving a indefinite suspension since then. And to clarify, again, the only violation I was served was for my username. The fact that my username had my name of Kainen in it. My username was Kainen Y2K back then. And as you can see, my branding is very Y2K, is it not? I am going to be going over a lot of these points in his document because while my document I made back then was to literally show I wasn't impersonating him and that all of my clothes were heavily based off of the clothes that I wore IRL and that there were never one-to-one, copies of anything, his document hardly addressed anything of that sort, and instead he chose to slander me by sharing all of these random things and accusations towards me. And now that I have the clarity to know that a lot of these are actually confessions on his part, because that's how narcissists work, we're going to be trying to apply that same knowledge that I've learned over the last few years to this document to unpack it and really bring to the surface of the meaning and intent behind his document and what's encased within it. He talks about how me and Natbites were attempting to dehumanize him by calling him just a VTuber, but last time I checked, he doesn't make any face cam content or even hand cam content. In fact, he's so against showing his hands or even his face, like he has explicitly said he is never going to make content like that. How is calling you just a VTuber dehumanizing you if you're literally just a VTuber? Like, how is that bad? How is that dehumanizing? Like, I literally make IRL content. I make NSFW content, like, with my IRL body. Like, I post my face, I post outfit of the days on Twitter. I don't care because I look like my models. I have nothing to hide. I think I am decent looking. Like, I don't consider myself ugly. So again, this claim that we're trying to dehumanize him by calling him, you're just a VTuber. Yeah, it's kind of out of left field because I'm not gonna lie, what are VTubers known for? Being anonymous. And when you're anonymous, you can get away with shit like this. Because it's really hard to hold people accountable when they're anonymous, right? And it's clear that with him being a Twitch partner, there's a lot of power at play here, which is also what made this situation a lot more drastic, extreme, and painful for me. He also tries to bring us to be mutuals for the sake of his benefit, when in reality, we aren't mutuals. He has 30 plus K on Twitch. I had 1.4K. I don't have a community to back me up, to save me, to counteract what his community has done behind the scenes. My community cannot protect me. His community has been sending my community masked links with my name in them to his channel with free gifted subs during my lewd streams. That is so disgusting. I would have never thought to do something like that. You know what I'm saying? I haven't once told my community, hey, you guys should go do this to Kainen Harlow, you know? Why would I do that? I have no reason. Even if someone does me wrong, I'm gonna be telling them to their face what they did to me and how I feel about it, because why would I want little monkeys doing my bidding? You know, like I just don't believe in that. That's not how I roll, you know? I don't believe in that. So I've never once told my community to do something for me against Kainen Harlow. I cannot say the same for him. In fact, I don't know if that's what's happened. I just know that he shouts enough hate, and I've heard past viewers of his, I've been in VC with them, by the way, before, and they've literally told me, yeah, like back then he was talking about how like you wanted his followers and you wanted everything he has, and I'm like, what the hell? Because it's like, I don't want his followers. We don't have the same communities. We don't have the same community type. We have different morals. We have different values. I do think that's also something that has kind of come into play. I'm not gonna lie, for the longest time, I really didn't have a problem with him being at the top. I didn't mind if he was above me, like in respect, you know? And then, you know, it was when it got really real, when he confronted me and threatened me to change everything about myself. When he had no idea who the fuck I was, didn't know where I came from, didn't know who I was becoming, and felt like he had the jurisdiction to tell me how to live my life just to benefit him. It's so incredibly stupid. It's like a random on the street walking up to you and saying, hey, you need to change everything about yourself because I don't like it. Or, oh, you're wearing the same jacket as me, so can you like take it off and throw it in the trash? You know, like who does that, you know? And I never really expected friendship. When it comes to people who have similarities with each other, isn't the best thing to do to become friends, right? He also talks about how, in his view, these similarities are not excusable coincidences. And the way he's framing this is as if, like, I claimed they were coincidences, when I can say right now, they're not coincidences, because I watched him as a fan for a good couple months. To a certain degree, I am inspired by you. I am. But also, I have all of these experiences in my life that have developed my tastes and my design and branding and color preferences and how I view things and how I want to do things. I have a reason for literally everything. So if you happen to be watching one of my live streams in the future of seeing this video, literally just ask me a question about something. For example, like, why do you like cherries? And I'll literally tell you the story of why I like cherries. The one big, or maybe a few, experiences or even memories that I have with cherries, and I'll tell you why I like them. I will never have a moment where I'm like, oh, like I just like it, because that's not me. I like things when they mean something to me. I don't just like them because I like them. It has meaning to me. It has a meaning behind it for me. I love symbolism. I love meaning. I love just creativity. I like all of that stuff. I'm an artist, He says he didn't want to make this document, but I honestly really beg to differ. I think he probably enjoyed making this document, because if he didn't enjoy making this document, it would not be written like a novella. It would have been written to only debunk whatever the fuck I was saying. Instead, he released this document very soon after I released mine, and his document did not match up with responding to mine, which shows that he had this readily prepared months beforehand, if not weeks beforehand. And let me just say, because I kind of forgot to mention this, when he confronted me in DMs during a stream I was having, he joined my Discord server, then messaged me during my stream. When he found out that I was moving to New York, he threatened me to change everything about myself. And if I didn't, then he would be sending out this long form document of similarities that was fear-mongering. I guarantee you he had joy writing that document, because the fact that he could tear down a smaller person, yet alone a trans mask, who had very little support, who had a very little voice back then, who looks very similar to the type of young boys he's attracted to, I do believe he has had immense joy in how this whole situation has played out, at least in the beginning, because it's going to be a problem to him that I'm making this video, and that whenever I've spoken up about things, involving him, that's a problem to him. Because when you're a narcissist, you try to hit your victim where it hurts, so then they don't have the ability to speak up and share what happened to them, what happened to you, at all with anybody. So then you feel insane. You feel like what happened to you, you deserved. Because for the longest time, I thought I deserved what happened to me. Even though I never copied anything one-to-one, because it was never about becoming so similar to him. Like, it was never about that. I knew the course I wanted to go with myself, and it did happen to be similar to him. The person I wanted to become happened to have blonde hair and happened to be a catboy. I've been a catboy since 2020. It really isn't a new concept. In fact, the character that just came out, Gacha game, has black ears, but like fuchsia colored hair. Black ears are not a new concept. It's a widely known concept, in fact. So it's not unique to Kainen Harlow. Regardless if my name is also Kainen, and by the way, first time mentioning it in this video, Kainen is my legal first name. You're welcome. And again, I couldn't legally change my first name because of course my dead name is different than my name now of Kainen. I couldn't change it until I moved. I couldn't get it legally changed until I moved. And I feel like that should be common sense, because when I lived in Kansas, well, look at Kansas now. Kansas now has it out for trans people. If I stayed there any longer, I think I would be very unsafe. And that's why I moved to New York, because I knew that I'd have a better life here than in Kansas. And I definitely have had a better life so far. I just think it's crazy that a VTuber I barely know, that barely knows me, thinks that everything I've done is solely because of him. It's just so delusional. I'm over here living my best life, trying to live a life worth living, and he sees that sparkle in my eye and wants to fucking ruin it because he was no longer the one and only Kainen on Twitch. Because that was his motto back then. If you brand yourself as the one and only blank when your name is a common name for trans masks or, whatever, or queer people, dude, you gotta rethink some shit. You can't get mad at me for that. Like, you can't get mad at me over a name that plenty of other people have on Twitch. For anyone watching this video, literally search up Kainen. You can see that there's over a dozen Kainens on Twitch already. Kainen is not a rare name anymore. And yet my account still hasn't been reinstated. Everything I've been accused of, he has done to me, but so much worse. All I have done is cosplayed him. I asked beforehand. He mentioned how many people had cosplayed him in the past. And so I took that as an okay, and I did. I cosplayed him once or twice. And in his document, he said, everyone knows that I don't like people cosplaying me. And it's like, well, clearly I didn't, because you told me that a few people had already cosplayed you, and I took that as, oh, it's okay. Like, because most people would be fucking honored if someone cosplayed them. Would they not? And somehow he's the one person that it fucking hurts. It really fucking sucks. how like he chose to lie and make me look like the villain when his ego is just incredibly bruised. He rhetorically asks of like, how did this start? And from my point of view, it seems like some of his mutuals or his friends were probably getting in his head about if I was impersonating him and, oh, you gotta watch out for this smaller creator. Ooh, they're gonna get you. In reality, it was quite the opposite. Like, bro, I just kind of thought you were cool. Like, you know what I'm saying? And the fact that like he's saying he was freaked out when he saw similar outfits, and it's like, you wear the most basic outfits on your models. What are you talking about? And then it was the fact of he saw friends among my following list and less familiar mutuals, and that he was freaked out. What? Are you freaked out that I happen to be very community oriented and I actually talk to people that you might talk to? I was in one of the biggest well-known VTuber Twitch teams. I was all over the community. Like, I was decently known VTuber that was really supportive of literally everybody else. And unfortunately, now that so much has happened, I do kind of keep to myself. I no longer, reach out to people as much because of this situation. And that's what Kainen Harlow wanted. He wanted me to be without support. It's just messed up. But yeah, the only reason why he's freaked out is because I think he was afraid that maybe he wasn't going to have power over me if he wasn't in close connection with literally every single person that I knew and that we both knew, which is kind of manipulative. Another thing that made me feel really weird was like he said he thought my voice rang a bell, but he couldn't be sure. And I'm like, how would you know what my voice sounds like unless if you've watched me before? And then the mention of I was tiptoeing around the topic of similarities, and it's like, yes. You know why? Because I knew exactly how he would react. Because guess what? I have a history of being a victim of narcissistic abuse. And if this was going to happen, which it did, it was going to prove that he was a narcissist. That's how it works. I was being paranoid. I was sharing my paranoia. And in reality, it wasn't paranoia because it turned out to be true. He was going to hate me for being similar at all to him, to having stuff in common with him, because that's how narcissists are. If you have too much in common with them, they will crucify you because they want to be unique. They feel the need to idolize themselves to a point where it is so unhealthy. Everyone else is below them. Everyone else below them is scum, is not worthy of respect, which is exactly what happened here. I was a lot more paranoid back then than I am now, and it feels honestly a lot better because I think this whole situation was the big eye-opener for I need to trust my gut and I need to not treat it as paranoia, but as a possible outcome. And if it makes me nervous, I need to shove it in my back pocket and only think about it when something happens that would advance that thought. This was when I was living in my very difficult household. I was still living with my parents, and I felt extremely unsafe and literally paranoid of anything happening at any given moment with anybody. I had very limited outlets, so I would openly talk about my paranoia and how I could easily envision how people would react to certain things that I would do, because I have been so used to pre-expect how people would react to anything I do because I was a people pleaser. I was used to walking on eggshells around anybody that had a position of power, which was Kainen Harlow. I wanted nothing more, honestly, than to just be accepted for who I was becoming. And I knew deep down, there's no doubt. Of course we have similarities. I think I've definitely, I knew back then that from other people's point of view, how a document could be orchestrated and put together, things would look a lot worse than what they actually were. because one, I did IRL content on top of my VTuber content, and in this document that he posted, there were a lot of things that were left out that made me look worse than how I actually was. And the only worse was how similar we were to each other, which there's nothing bad about that. It just means we have a lot in common. Now, when it comes to morals and values, those couldn't be different. Those couldn't be any more different. Those two things are immensely different from each other. Throughout the document, he would routinely try and use my paranoia as kind of like making fun of it or using it as a way to make me look like I knew what I was doing and like trying to like backpedal or something when, you know, that's definitely not it. You know, there were a lot of things that I wasn't sure of when it came to like the facts on like my end, because like there were like alt accounts that were being very like suspicious that turns out they were actually past viewers of his that were being really weird. And I would keep telling them like, hey, like I'm genuinely like born female. They're like, no, you're not, like, haha, this is just your alt account. I'm like, no, like I have blue eyes, like I've never met you before, and I think that says more about the viewers than me or him, I should say. So once we found out that those alt accounts weren't actually Kainen Harlow, that was really relieving, honestly. But the things that were being said on some of the alt accounts, I don't think anyone could blame me for thinking it could have been Kainen Harlow, considering he was the one person that wanted me gone. And then he goes on to talk about how like, oh, it was just pure conspiracy, how they accused me of blah, blah, blah. And it's like, we never stated that it was a fact. In fact, we chose to word things very specifically to show our intent of recognizing that this was our opinion, that it could be Kainen Harlow, and that we didn't know for sure. Because again, like we cared about sharing the information and not purposefully swaying anybody to think that it was all facts, because that's not what I believe in. Because if something isn't true, I feel terrible about it. I feel guilty if I find out that something I stated isn't true. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how I am as a person. Can't say the same for him. He also chose to take screenshots all throughout my Discord server to honestly try to embarrass me for like role playing with my community, because my community, somebody had made me some like a fan fiction, and so we were just kind of like goofing around, role playing and stuff. I did really like Kainen Harlow's emotes, and I happened to still be in his server back then, back in 2022. But yeah, I think he tried to literally embarrass me for the fact that like I was just, you know, flirting around with like my community and role playing. And at the time, I wasn't even known as Kainen. In fact, I was still going by Milo. I was still a bunny boy VTuber when these screenshots were taken. I don't know what the intent was behind that, because you know what? He tried to make them look like I was role playing as him. Wait, he lied. Oh my god, he fucking lied. He lied. I wasn't even role playing. Yeah, in these screenshots, I wasn't even role playing. Like, I was literally just using his emotes because, yeah, of course I liked your emotes. They're nice to look at. And they're nice to use. Like, that's why you use emotes? Like, hello? And back then, again, I wasn't even going by Kai. I was going by Milo. Like, everyone's saying my name of Milo in these screenshots. Like my VTuber name back then was Milo. So I was not role playing as you back then in these screenshots. And I was just using your emotes. Is there something wrong with that? Like, I was in your Discord server because I enjoyed your content, so I'm not allowed to use your emotes because my name is also Kainen at a later time? It's just giving, I'm gonna construe my point of view to make this person look bad because there is this image now that can make them look bad. And that's just terrible. That's just manipulative. That's awful. That's terrible. And then he goes on to like put in parentheses of real name. Is Kainen actually their real name? And yes, it fucking is. It's my first legal name, whether you like it or not. And at this point in time, nothing changes that fact. It's my real name. I like the name enough to go by it for the rest of my life. Nothing's gonna change that. Not even your hate towards me. I like the name enough. Regardless if someone looks similar to me with the same name, I don't care. The name fits me and whatever my purpose is as a person to live out. Kainen fits me in my own way. That doesn't have anything to do with Kainen Harlow. He also goes on to share why he picked up the name Kainen. And he's like, everyone calls me Kainen. I took up the name to honor a family member who passed away 2 decades ago. So what justifies claims of a real name and how does it matter here? In fact, when it comes to your lore as well, you have never once publicized like your written lore. You've only ever really talked about your lore ever since this document. That I can come to the same realizations that you can. And it does low-key set you up to be able to overwrite pretty much anything that I'm doing. And therefore, you are taking advantage of that. You're taking advantage of how much of a platform you have, taking advantage of how many people just believe you without actually fact-checking anything. Like, there's no way to really prove for you that your lore is your lore because what? I'm guessing you don't actually have it written down. You have no document with your lore that you wrote 2021. I have lore that I wrote in 2022. I have that shit. Like, in fact, I posted my lore when I was going by the name of Lane. I published the lore to my Twitch About section. So for all I know, you could have literally been referencing that after the fact. And then because you're bigger, you make everyone think that I copied your lore when in reality, I'm just creative as fuck. And I made that up on my own because I did. My grandmother passed away and I incorporated her into that lore and it means something to me and you're upset. In fact, my lore has more to do with mirrors than it does like, I don't know, mimic chests. And the fact that it's been like villainized, like, oh, but that's my lore. And it's like, do you have proof that I didn't take your lore? Because I didn't know what it was to begin with. That's the whole point that I'm trying to make, is that I never knew what his lore was. I was literally just making up like my own shit, my own lore. And then he just keeps going on about how I'm trying to dehumanize his real identity. I'm trying to convince everyone he's not a real person. And it's like, of course you're a real person. You're a real person behind the avatar. You're trying to dehumanize yourself to make yourself look smaller, to make yourself look more pitiable, because you're trying to still make yourself the victim when you were the perpetrator the whole fucking time. You started this whole thing and you're victimizing yourself. You're literally committing Darvo in this fucking document. You're deflecting, you're victimizing yourself after you've done all the harm to someone else. You're trying to make yourself look like the victim when you're not. You can't take accountability for what you did, and you probably never will. The way he villainizes me is just crazy because it's like, oh, it makes it a lot easier to hate me as some fictional inconvenience to someone else's real self. Bruh, that's how you feel about me. Because I'm fucking trans. Like, let's be real. That's how you see people online, because you can't realize that they're a real person. And he just keeps going on and on and on about how he's a real person and not an OC. And it's like, of course you're not. Oh my god, the victimization of himself is just crazy. Like, you're the one who started this whole thing, not me. You and your friends are the ones who got in each other's heads and started a war between you and me that I didn't even see coming, because I've never been a part of anything like this. So let's kind of go back to his recollection of the first outreach. So when he messaged me for the first time, here he talks about that I wasn't interested in taking his concerns seriously. I'm assuming he's talking about the fact that he was the one that blocked me after he sent his messages. That's a flat out lie, because during that exchange, before I knew that he blocked me, I had tried to send my reasonings and justifications for why my models look the way they do, and literally unpack every single reason for every design element I have on my models and my branding. And because he blocked me, I had no way of relaying that information to him. And if I were to try and communicate further, it would actually be his first piece of fuel, his first and only piece of fuel to, quote unquote, it would be his one and only piece of evidence of me harassing him, which this idea is important to make you guys aware of, because I've never once harassed him. Never. In fact, it's been the complete opposite. This whole situation is him manipulating and harassing me and abusing his power to get what he wants, which is to be the one and only Kainen on Twitch. He mentions there were some unkind things said in my Discord server. No, there wasn't. There was no unkind things said in the Discord at that time. If there were things said, it was after the fact, which means he has someone camping in my server to see and watch what me and my community is saying about him, which rightfully so. You're the one who's been harassing me and trying to get me to change everything about myself for your comfort, when, again, I'm not impersonating you. I'm literally just existing. He then goes on to talk about how when I changed my handle to Kainen Y2K, that he was trying to downplay it with his community. Why would you need to downplay something like that? I mean, the only thing you need to downplay is the fact that you confronted me about changing everything about myself and threatening me to do so, which again is wrong because I'm literally just trying to be myself. And again, this whole idea of people being similar to each other, unless if someone is impersonating you, stay in your own lane. I don't know if I've said that yet in this video, but everyone has the right to look however they want. If they are not copying you one-to-one, if they are not impersonating you, you are fine. Walk it off. Stay in your own lane. This whole situation happened because he came crashing into my lane, trying to run me off the road. That is what happened. And if anyone says otherwise, you are so incredibly wrong and cannot see the truth or what actually happened and what he's been actually trying to do. He then talks about the fact that I would go on to make vague posts after the fact. He confronted me and stuff, and at that point I felt really unsafe, and even after the confrontation, I wasn't sure on how to feel. One, I made my server sub only, and I felt like I was being attacked for literally just trying to be myself, which did happen to be similar to somebody else. My designs are nothing special, and I don't even want to call them designs, or at least half of them, because they're literally just me. They're just an online version of me. It's not a character because I look like them IRL. Out of probably anyone I know, I look the most like my models out of anyone I know. And I don't know if anyone else can say the same, who genuinely looks like their models, you know? Let's talk about one of my tweets that he accuses me of, that it's about him. And I'm going to talk about why it is not about him. This tweet right now that I'm putting up on screen, it actually was cropped severely because there was media attached to the tweet, and it was a video. So there's a lot of context missing from this tweet, and it was a video of my character, my old character Camille, dying, and then me now wearing a black and purple, like a fuzzy hoodie jacket, with my, choker collar thing with the chains and shit. And then my blonde hair, cat ears, rounded cat ears, and puffy, big fat cat tail. And it was an animation inspired by Melanie Martinez's song Death. And it was to celebrate the fact that I was finally healing from the narcissism that was dealt to me by Pappy the Lich King. When I made that tweet, that is who I was thinking of when I made the tweet. It wasn't anybody else. It was literally Pappy the Lich King. Because it might have been like 2 months before that tweet was made, he was finally canceled. So after I had, give or take 2 months to process everything, it felt freeing to be able to make a tweet about still being alive, still being here, and trying so hard not to succumb to the hate of narcissistic people. And the fact that Kainen Harlow thinks this is about him says so much, because if he thinks this is about him, guess what? That's how he sees himself. He sees himself as a narcissist. You know what I'm saying? I didn't even mention him because this tweet wasn't even about him. It was about Pappy the Lich King. 100%. There wasn't, 1% it was about Kainen Harlow. No. I didn't even see Kainen Harlow as a narcissist when I made this post. Because the thing is, my Twitch account getting indefinitely suspended happened a little over a month later from this post. I had very little idea that Kainen Harlow was even narcissistic. He is writing a narrative to make me look like I am attacking him when it's the complete opposite. He's trying to victimize himself so intensely, using every single possible angle he can get at to make me look like the villain when he is the villain. And since he does not want to take accountability for the fact that he will not communicate clearly with people on his boundaries when it involves cosplay or anything for that matter, he doesn't want to take accountability, so he is victimizing himself to all hell. He refuses to take accountability, or if he does, it's because he is rock bottom. He interpreted this tweet to be about him. It is not about him. It was about 100% Pappy the Lich King. And the fact that he treats this as a fact is really fucking disappointing. Because again, this happened way before he got my account indefinitely suspended. I had no reason to think that he was narcissistic at the time. So this had nothing to do with him, obviously. So let me bring up the tweet about the Discord server being sub-only and stuff like that. He talks about how this is before my Twitch account being indefinitely suspended. This is before, okay? He said he did his best to minimize the situation, but I fanned the flames. You mean I'm fanning the flames by having a normal reaction to wanting to keep myself safe and my community safe? Yeah, I said here, you're the one who came into my Discord, DM'd me during a stream, threatened me, saying if I didn't change everything about myself, and then had the audacity to say that I was fanning the flames for having a normal reaction to someone trying to get me to change everything, aka erasing the person I want to be, to make him comfortable, to make him happy, someone I do not know, someone who is a stranger on the internet, where there's no impersonation going on, no copying one-to-one, nothing, says he did his best to minimize the situation. Yeah, you're minimizing the situation, all right. You're trying to minimize the harm that you did to me because you don't want to take accountability for it, and therefore you are still trying to victimize yourself and villainize me for having a normal reaction to the abuse and harm you have caused. The abuse you have inflicted with your own 2 hands and brain. It is not hard to be kind. In fact, it is not hard to stay in your lane when the other person isn't going into your lane at all. And then here he admits to being the sole perpetrator for getting my Twitch account indefinitely suspended. He says here, I reported their Twitch account for a handful of reasons, including that I felt the individual had copied me extensively. Apparently, Twitch agreed. This right here, he is admitting that he is the one person that got my account indefinitely suspended. He is the reason I am no longer on Twitch. And he got Twitch to put a violation on my account because I had the name Kainen in my username. Ridiculous. He also talks about how he was relieved when I got indefinitely suspended. Relieved from what? The fact that now you're the one and only VTuber named Kainen on Twitch? Like, I still cannot believe how much that bothers somebody. It's so incredibly narcissistic and egotistical. He's acting like he was the one getting harassed when he wasn't. The victimizing is just all over the document. Alright, so here he talks about how to him, my document sounded. I was dehumanizing him as a narcissist, apparently. And he talks about spy novel universe shit and how he calls narcissism being one of the bad disorders, which deserves no empathy. I think it deserves empathy when you apologize and take accountability for your actions. Mental illnesses do not take away from bad behavior. Me being trans and looking the way I look right now is not bad behavior. This is me being myself, not bothering anybody. Again, the only reason why I'm making this video is because I deserve to have my voice heard against the abuse and harassment I have received over the last 2 years. I never got to stand up for myself because this document is vindictive and heinous and awful, because I couldn't even imagine or start to imagine how I would respond to this document at the time it was posted. He had prepared this document over months and months of time he had to prepare this document. And he posted it within 2 days after I posted mine. This was meant to do so much harm. It's not the fact that he is a narcissist that makes him bad. It's the fact that he hasn't taken accountability and that he hasn't apologized, and his actions and words have caused irreparable harm. He actively chose to get my account indefinitely suspended when I had done nothing wrong. Nothing. Just because he wanted to. I cannot understand doing that to somebody else. I really cannot. If they're not bothering you, leave them alone. Let them live their life. Unfortunately, I cannot leave this situation alone because it affected me. It has everything to do about me. My life, my mental health was affected so severely by his torment, his harassment, his manipulation, everything. You cannot tell me otherwise. He is literally committing Darvo all throughout this document. He talks about how he's not going to ignore hateful conspiracy theorists, and I beg to differ that he is the one that is a hateful conspiracy theorist, because again, if you guys remember just, a bit ago, we looked at the tweets that I was posting, and there are multiple situations and screenshots in this video already where he assumed things were about him when they were 100% not. He's actually the conspiracy theorist, not me. Here he talks about how there was no scheme to his Discord log collecting, but then he starts to talk about our exchange in DMs and talks about how I had a thrilling narrative about the alt accounts. And you know what's happening here is he's actually confessing about his own document and how he sees his document as a thrilling narrative, because my document was not supposed to be a narrative. Mine was supposed to be opinions mixed with facts, and everything that I did not have evidence for, I stated specifically as an opinion to let the reader know that the opinion was proper speculation. And with the alt accounts, I never once made those opinions any more than opinions or ideas. Him, on the other hand, he straight up accuses me of awful things and, is writing this this narrative of villainizing me so intensely, not even being able to prove anything, but literally pushing his narrative, the story he's written in his head about what I'm talking about, what I'm tweeting about, even timelines of when the screenshots were taken and when the screenshots were from. It's like 90% incorrect, which is terrifying because, again, so many people have believed his narrative because he's had big numbers, so therefore he must be right. When, again, those screenshots, I was still being called Milo, so I wasn't role-playing as him. I wasn't using those emotes to represent myself at the time. So his narrative of, oh my god, he's trying to be me, oh my god, he's impersonating. No, I sincerely just liked your emotes at the time. This is how the majority of the document goes. He accuses me of everything that he's taken screenshots of and that he references, but he spins this well-written narrative so well it convinced so much of Twitter and other VTubers, probably even his friends, that I am this villain when in reality he is the villain of this whole situation and story. And here he says even whole accounts slip through the cracks. I can only imagine what he means by this is that I could have accounts in his Discord server, which I don't because I'm not that bothered. I am really not that bothered to be doing that. I'm not. And then the mention about what he had screenshotted has been deleted already. That's because I like to clean up my server every few months, sometimes every year, because people leave, new people join, that type of stuff. Okay, here we go. He talks about he knows he's not a perfect victim. Darvo, he is at the point in this document where he is victimizing himself. He doesn't want to take accountability. He wants to be seen as the victim, even though he is the one causing all of this to happen. He is the perpetrator. I am the victim. I'm the victim, not him. Now, if I was doing all of this to him, I would 100% be the perpetrator and he would be the victim. But that's not what happened. I was in my own lane and he came crashing into my lane, and then he tried to practically sue me for the damage that I caused to him, even though he was the one that purposefully swerved into my lane, totaled my car. How does that make sense? With that analogy, do you guys understand what I'm trying to say? Do you understand how fucked up this situation is? That would not fly with insurance. Like, I didn't cause this to happen. It's kind of like if someone has a certain bumper sticker on their car and it makes someone mad. So you're gonna say, oh, well, that bumper sticker made me so mad, so I had to, swerve into them, and then I made it about me and I victimized myself because I really didn't like it. And so that's why, I caused all that damage, but I'm the victim here. What the fuck? And then he goes on to play this victim card where it's like he's not widely networked and stuff, and he has a mixed he talks about his reputation. He chooses to not network. He knows how he is. He's a disturbing individual. He's a narcissist. He is very, very cliquey. He uses people for what they're worth to get what he wants, to use people for their talents and their skills, and that's it. He doesn't actually care about people. If you are no longer compliant, he will get rid of you, and he will talk to everyone else about you and how horrible you were. And he starts talking about his flaws, where he's had some difficult experiences, developed an avoidance style. Yes, it's because you're a narcissist and you get rid of people when they no longer serve you, and you want to be idolized. You don't want to connect with people. It's okay to keep to your own community, but when you're trying to use it as a victim card, when you're the one that did everything wrong to somebody else, that's fucked up. The fact that he's acting like that I've harassed him when he says something inappropriate in his Twitch chat, or he refuses to be mistreated, none of that has happened. I haven't mistreated him. I haven't said inappropriate things to him to warrant anything that has happened. After the fact, maybe, but that's after the fact. That is me having having a normal reaction to the abuse, narcissism, and harassment that has happened from him. He also, here we go, this is really disturbing. He is asking the raiders for their sympathy and empathy and a fake connection, a fake call to action for everyone's good nature. He's counting on everyone's good nature to give his document a fair read. He is manipulating everyone who is reading his document to believe his narrative. And here he says, if you come away from this feeling sympathetic to my experience, I would appreciate a friendly message from you. If you are kind and genuine with me, I'm sure we could. No, because I was kind and genuine and we do not get along. No, that is a narcissistic branch to scope out more victims, to scope out more genuine and kind people to take advantage of. Do not fall for this, because those are the people like me that are preyed upon daily and taken advantage of as pawns of being used for our emotional connection to make a narcissist feel better. He talks about how there's inspiration, coincidence, and lines of copying. He talks about, the same things that I would be talking about on my live streams about making mistakes, online friendships are real, who we are today, things that have shaped us into who we are. And he then talks about how he's flattered by seeing others inspired by him, but that couldn't be farther from the truth. He talks about his good deeds, which is also part of Darvo. Again, he's trying to victimize himself and trying to pitch himself so then you support him instead of me, which, that's fine, because the people who support Kainen Harlow probably were never going to support me to begin with, because, that's not really what I care about. Because again, the people who want to support a narcissist, a misogynist, just all of these other things that I have studied pretty intently, and just heard about by clips, and his intent and morals are very clear within them. It's pretty awful. Not to mention, he's also talked about mutilating people on his streams. I believe I still have that clip, so I might put that up and play that for you guys, or I might link it in the video, and the timestamp of what's going on right now will be linked with it. And he talks about how he always raids smaller streamers who treats him kindly and those who feel genuine. Again, the two traits of those that people like him take advantage of, being kind and genuine. Those are the people. If you're kind and genuine, please stay away from narcissists. In fact, he very rarely raids anybody. And if he does raid people now, it's because of this whole situation that has happened, and he's struggling to find mutual support because of what he's done. Or again, he's trying to up his reputation, so then my voice is not heard or considered. All right, here he talks about other VTubers named Kai. He doesn't mind if people are named Kai, but if there was another Kainen with a distinct brand identity, he wouldn't complain. Back when I was under the name of Milo VT, that is when he had followed me back after I raided him. And I 100% believe the reason why he followed me back is because, one, I looked very young. I will admit, I am not proud of that design, because putting your inner child on the internet for everyone to scrutinize and see is such a bad idea. And it lasted for 2 to 3 months, and that's it. But I'm still not proud of it, because that is the design that I basically correlated with my inner child. In hindsight is 2020, but the fact that he liked one post of my bunny boy VTuber and not any of my other posts that had to do with my Lammy Incubus OC at the time should be a red flag to anyone or everyone. Certain things are more accepted in the anime community than it is in real life. The debate of fictional versus real life involving children. That's what I'm getting at. So in hindsight, him liking out of all of my posts ones where it was of a character of mine that looked very reminiscent of a child, was honestly, it's really disturbing knowing everything that I know now. And again, it's been so long since then, and it's just really disturbing knowing everything I know now. And also after that, he talks about how I was putting together a cosplay of him. And he talks about how he told his community often that he wasn't comfortable seeing that happen yet. And that my cosplay plans reinforced his discomfort, so he unfollowed me and built distance. How is an unfollow supposed to communicate to me that you don't like me making a cosplay of you when you gave me the okay prior? You need to communicate with me. You need to communicate with everyone. In fact, where was I supposed to see that you weren't comfortable with people cosplaying you? If you mentioned it once during a stream, people aren't gonna know. If you don't post that to your website or link hub or a pin on your socials or even your Twitch about section, how are people gonna know? They're not gonna know. And that's still not a thing anywhere that I can find. Nothing about, I don't like people cosplaying me, so please don't cosplay me. It nowhere does it say anything like that. So again, this is another situation or another piece in which he does not want to take accountability for the fact that he chose to not communicate and use this piece as quote unquote evidence for why I should be villainized, because he's the one who gave me the impression that cosplaying him was okay, and he did not communicate otherwise. He is the one not taking accountability right here. He then talks about why he doesn't like cosplay being done of him, and like he was struggling with his gender identity and stopping the abuse of alcohol consumption. With all due respect, having issues around gender identity and you abusing alcohol does not impair your ability to communicate clear boundaries with people. You are choosing to omit these ideas, these boundaries that you have in your brain about, I don't like people cosplaying me. You need to post it everywhere. You need to put it somewhere so then people can find it and see it, because him doing this, it is allowing more situations like this where he can play the victim card and then villainize anyone else who is trying to do a kind gesture to show that someone supports him and really appreciates what he's done. He wants to play the victim card all the time because it gives him internet points. It gives him points for being a victim. I 100% understand the feeling of seeing someone else dress up like your VTuber would be bad for dysphoria and recovery, and why you would refuse cosplay inquiries. But here's the thing, you did not refuse me when I asked. You did not communicate when you saw me doing it. I would have been more than happy, truly, to stop if you communicated with me. Instead, this whole thing turned into how I look as a person. This situation no longer has anything to do with the fact that I cosplayed him, and the fact that this is just one peg in the huge narrative that he's built up about me is just awful. Let me unpack the chibi model accusation. So, one, I don't have the mimic design on my hoodie. The hoodie does not have chains. Those are braids. The hairstyle and the hair color is not the same. The pin in the hair is not the same. What I referenced for my hairpin, it's actually a hair fork. And I actually have hair forks that look exactly like the ones in my chibi hair. And they have little tiny scalloped pieces cut out. But his is a flower with a green emerald gem in the middle, and I think he purposefully picked this chibi art because it makes it look like there are more similarities than there's actually differences. Not only that, I don't have earrings. I have white and black striped stockings because I wear those. I used to wear those a lot. I have fishnets because I like wearing fishnets a lot, and I have just normal black shorts. And let me just preface this by saying this is a chibi model that I ordered from an artist friend. So I did not get this model custom made. Like I didn't pick this YCH model because it was sitting to the side like Kainen Harlow in this chibi art illustration. Do you see what's happening here? He's literally painting a narrative because he is picking this specific piece of art to spin a narrative that they're too similar, because he's concocting this in a way to make it look like there are more similarities than there actually are. Specifically, hiding the hairpin is diabolical. And then the audacity to say that the design is just a recolor of his design is just wrong, because there is a lot different. He also compares some pajama art I made, because like here in America, the concept of plaid pajamas is really popular around Christmas time, specifically like red and navy or red and black is super popular for pajamas for Christmas. And I really thought nothing of it, because it's like, oh, you know, so many people wear these for Christmas time, you know, on like Christmas Day they wear matching pajamas. So that's why I did them, because I'm like, oh wow, like it's, you know, so many people wear these IRL, and that's the whole intent of why I do these things, because it's like, oh, I see this IRL a lot, I want to do that, I want to put it on my VTuber, I want to draw my persona in plaid pajamas, just like I saw at the mall like the day of when I drew this. Like, I'm being so dead ass, like, oh my god. And then I did buy a pair and I wore them on a sleepover stream. All right, here we go. He talks about his fictional bakery called Panyara, and he says that it's his, or that couldn't be even close to the truth, because Panyara is a play on words for Panera. So Panyara has been a thing before Kainen started doing it. There's a really popular TikTok that went around, which he probably saw. The original idea, or at least the main big idea and TikTok I saw circulating around on the internet, was about a lady saying, oh my god, we all need to make Panyara a thing. We need to get all the cat girls working there. Panyara is for the cat girls. Panyara is not your creation. It's kind of just one of those things, just like Femboy Hooters or Goth IHOP. It doesn't belong to anybody. This is inspiration. Doing Panyara gimmicks and jokes and funny TikToks or shorts is inspiration. I literally jumped on the camera with my ass as a joke of jumping on Karens. Like, oh my god, like, it was the funniest shit ever too. And he says he doesn't recall taking it from anywhere, but it's the fact that he can't be sure if he was the first VTuber to do Panyara. And then he goes on to say he wouldn't mind if someone working at Panyara, after seeing him do it, if they asked or put their own spin on it. And it's like, I did. I jumped on the camera with my ass. Like, hello? And why do they need to ask you if you're not the owner of the concept? Maybe it's because you do believe you own the Panyara concept, I wonder? Very interesting. I don't recall taking it from anywhere. You don't need to take something from somewhere or not completely hound somebody else for doing something similar. Here we go. He talks about my tweet thread that I talked about here, and I'll put this up. I will say, you know, back then I felt like I found comfortability and relief by venting about how I was feeling about things online, and I do that a lot less now. This whole situation was really intense, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, I definitely don't talk about it in this way anymore, because I don't need to, because, you know, it's no longer at the climax. And you know, again, my intuition telling me realistically, I shouldn't need to ask for approval to go by Kainen online from anyone. In fact, it was my therapist who recommended I go by the name Kainen online. And that's why I changed it to Kainen Y2K in the first place, because of my therapist. I mentioned in the tweet, you know, I was really nervous to go by the name Kainen because Kainen Harlow already exists And because of what I've seen behavior-wise from the VTuber community, it made sense to me that I should just do what I want and try not to seek attention from other people when I do it. And I guess me talking about it really wasn't the smartest thing to do, but I felt really alone when it came to my journey as being a trans masc person, transitioning in my later years after becoming an adult. After the tweet in this document, he then lies and says, "This dehumanizing language litters the document. It really jumps out at me. There is no other dehumanizing language within the document except this one, which isn't even dehumanizing. It's literally just a matter of fact. I show my real life self. He does not. I show my real life appearance, my face, my hands, my body. He does not. He represents himself behind a VTuber. And there is nothing wrong with that. But to say we are dehumanizing you and lying that the same quote-unquote language is littered within my document when it's not. I did everything I could to make sure the way I wrote things were not inflammatory because I knew that this is how he would react, and he's taking this smallest thing he can spin in his own way to villainize me and is now lying, saying that this same dehumanizing language litters my document. The only reason why I am playing the defense is because you attacked me first. And that it is my real identity because I show my real life self. I am not hiding behind anything. I'm not hiding behind filters that obscure my face. I'm not hiding behind anything. I'm showing my authentic self. And I'm not trying to dehumanize or delegitimize him either. But I will say the fact that he does see this whole situation as monetized brand versus monetized brand, that is part of his own problem, actually contradicting his own narrative. Because if he wants to be seen as a person, he's going to have to treat other people like real human beings. He's gonna have to see me for the fact that I'm a real human being too. He has done irreparable damage to me. We're not trying to convince anyone that he's not a real person, because he is a real person behind the avatar. Absolutely, of course. All right, here's something that's very important to point out. Perhaps they should have made a distinct monetized identity brand publicly around it before I did, or made a better effort distinguishing that monetized identity brand from mine. So what I'm hearing is he is transphobic, and this is what I mean by saying he's transphobic. The fact that he is saying that I should have done everything that I've done now way before he did to apparently avoid all this is inherently transphobic. He is a cis man, a cis biological male, not having the same struggles that I've had my whole life, having undergone so much systemic narcissistic abuse. I could not be who I am today without moving out of a narcissistic household. I could not have even I couldn't start actually being who I am today without moving out. That is why it's taken me so long and why I've stumbled so hard on trying to figure out who the fuck I am, because I've been surrounded by transphobic people my whole life. Oh, it's just a phase. Wear this. You're gonna end up underneath a bridge in a cardboard box. That's my favorite one that I remember from my dad. That shit affects your children. That shit affects their children for the rest of their lives. I'm gonna take a moment to say this. I act like my relationships with my family and my parents are just fine, but in reality, they're not. I am immensely hurt, and the reason why I act like things are okay is because I am trying so hard to move on from the people-pleasing mindset. And I'm doing a really good job of it, but boy, is it so hard. It's like a drug. Same with abuse. Sometimes you are attracted to being treated horribly. And it's taken this fucking situation to show me that I'm done putting up with this shit from narcissists. I'm so done. I'm tired of it. I know exactly what I'm talking about. I know the signs. I know how to unpack it. And if you don't believe me, then it means that you have not been through it yourself, or you are too small-minded or privileged to even be able to start to understand. So many people do not have enough sympathy and empathy for other people to even understand what people have to go through. The fact that he is insinuating that if I did everything before he did, then this wouldn't have been a problem is so incredibly privileged and gross. It doesn't change anything. Like, what? Everyone should be able to do whatever the fuck they want to do as long as it doesn't hurt anybody. I wasn't impersonating him, and I didn't copy anything one-to-one because I never wanted to. I wanted to specifically incorporate and wear things that I could find IRL. That was my main tagline for why I do the things I do. If it's something I can find that I can wear IRL, I want to put it on my model. Easy as that. If it means something to me in my past and how I grew up, like especially with my grandmothers, I'm incorporating it because I love them. And this whole situation has immensely tainted my relationship with how I grieve lost time with my grandparents. Imagine having someone tell you that everything you're incorporating doesn't belong to you, or, to stop having it around you because it's too similar to somebody else. I could literally list off a few things. One of my grandmothers, huge pie baker, chocolate banana cream pies, coconut cream pies, cherry pie, key lime pie, tea time, going golfing, so wearing Argyle sweater vests with shorts, bougie country clubs, eating at country clubs. My dad loves the color purple because he's he's literally one of K-State's biggest fucking fans, and I can't really explain how or why because that would probably private information, but purple runs in my family and it's an important color for me, so of course I want purple in my shit. I've always loved having blonde hair. It's made me more confident than I ever have been in my whole life. Again, I've been going by Kai for so long. It's been the name I've had in my brain since I picked my own name that I would want to, have it changed to. And then when I stumbled upon the name Kainen, I was like, this is it. This is the name for me. It fits me so well. I don't want any other name. And let me just say, I had no idea what Kainen Harlow's lore was when he was using his cherry Kainen model. I had no idea that it was a retro mall in a liminal space. In fact, I think what I assumed was that his character owned like broken down record store, because at some point I was messing around with the mall lore as well, because I liked the idea of having stores where all of my friends could have their own store, and it would be a community type oriented, like a community living type mall, where the mall was converted into a group living, community living. And then on the weekends there would be race nights where like we would take go-karts and ride around the mall, and like dance battles with like glow paint, roller skating. That's what my lore was. And then my lore also had to do with, like, at the time I had a character named Freya, and she was an important link that had to do with helping me and my 2P self, which was Zainin, destroy any aliens coming through from the Midnight Wars. Because there were portals that got opened and would appear in the mall, and these little alien frog guys would come through, and we'd have to blast them like crazy with our special guns and stuff. So I don't know about y'all, but the lore is not matching up. So the lore is nowhere near matching up. So I'd say what I just explained is a pretty good transformative spin. Multiple spins, actually. Like, I left no crumbs. I fucking ate that shit up, you know what I'm saying? Like, when I make lore, I go ham. I love lore. I love writing. I love writing stories and having complexities. But just saying, presides over retro mall and a liminal space with froggy cats is nothing. Those are just branding elements. Though that is not lore. Like, it sounds like you actually don't have lore and you just have an aesthetic. And because you have those three elements you're mentioning, if, you know, because my lore also happened to, you know, be involved with like a mall, but also I just explained how my lore has all of these other elements and characters and complexities of my lore. They don't match up in the end at all. Like, except for the fact that it takes place in a mall, but the lore is completely different. So the nun outfit, I'd like to go over that because that's really important. He diminishes the fact that having a nun outfit was not a trend, which it was, because other creators I know, I can specifically recount at least 2 that I was following and actively keeping up with in their communities or Twitter accounts. They had nun outfits that they were wearing, and along with Kainen Harlow, were all wearing within the same time frame. So when I saw other people doing it, aka not Kainen Harlow, but, you know, other creators that I happen to be following, I'm like, oh my god, you know what? Like, this is the perfect time for me to be pulling out my nun outfit that I received in March. But Kainen Harlow had a nun outfit stream that he cataloged from August. So that is way later in the year than I received my nun outfit on Throne, because someone bought it for me. And I have every right to wait to wear that whenever I want, regardless if Kainen Harlow is wearing it within the same time frame that I am. Like, it literally was a trend because multiple people were wearing it and doing it. Like, the confession booth, you know, gimmick on stream was a trend going around. VTubers were getting nun outfits, and I shouldn't even need to say sorry for that, because that's just you being isolated and a bit ignorant to what people are doing around you. And if you're choosing to not network with people and not see what other people are doing, then you cannot say, oh, well, that's not a trend, because you have your head in the sand. You think that because you're not looking at what other people are doing, because looking at what other people are doing bothers you. That's why you don't look. So then you can write a narrative like this. All right, and here is the movie instance that he said here that he did a watch party in his community for the Invasion 2007, and he mentions he has clips from the film in his stream's intro video, which I don't see how that's relevant, because again, I don't watch his stuff anymore, and I really don't pay attention to what's in his intro video at all. In fact, whatever I've seen, I don't recognize like anything. I don't really, except if it's anime, then yeah, I'll recognize it. But anything like live action, I don't recognize anything. And so apparently he's accusing me for the week after copying his movie night. But actually what happened is he is accusing me of somehow knowing what movie he watched the week prior. I did not know what movie he was watching. In fact, I never know what movies he's watching, because I haven't been in his Discord server since 2022, as I've stated multiple times. So what actually happened is, on my schedule, we had the 1956 version, because a member of my community at the time made the suggestion. But here's the catch. I found out that that same person was a member of his community prior. I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt by saying I don't believe that this person tried to set me up to where this could have been used as evidence against me in this document. But is there always a possibility? 100%. But I don't believe that. I believe that they just wanted to make a wholesome suggestion, since I hadn't seen it before, and I still haven't seen that many horror movies. And I feel like the fact that we didn't watch the same exact one would also be a point of reference to say that I had no idea what the fuck you were watching the week week prior, because if I wanted to do a movie night, if I wanted to copy you, and if I was in your server, I could have seen what you had planned for that week and done it the exact same night if I wanted to copy you. Let's be so fucking for real. I did not copy him for this movie night. This is literally what I'm talking about when, you know, we're basically at the end of the document, besides his last few paragraphs of words of how he feels and stuff. But let me just further unpack this a little bit more. This is such a baseless claim. This is more baseless than my claim about the alt accounts, you know, being transphobic on my streams, and that were actually belonging to a ex-member of his community that genuinely thought that I was him or something. This is literally him conspiring about how I'm copying him. Like this is so this is the most bullshit one in my opinion, because like again, I have a reason for why I put this on my schedule. It's because someone fucking recommended it to me to put on the schedule to watch, and we didn't even get to watch it because I got sick and I wasn't feeling well. Like, oh my god, bro, he is so brain rotted that everything has to do with him. And then, you know, he makes fun of my mental health and how I'm so open about it, and then he has the audacity to shit on me by saying that my mental health is not a reason or excuse to recreate his branding to sell sex on Twitch, and then calling him out when I get banned. God, it's so bad. Because let me just take a moment to unpack this. Oh my god. First of all, the way he is spinning this whole document as if I'm doing all of this because I'm like mentally ill is absolutely disgusting, because I think I'm more in my right mind than I ever have been in my life. And to be reading this when he has caused all of this, he's caused my mental health to tank, to be in a ditch because of what he has done, because it is abuse of power, trying to erase my existence because to him there can only be one Kainen. It is disgusting. Saying that I've been using mental health reasons as a shield. I don't use that as a shield at all. In fact, I speak up on my shit, King, by the way. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm not recreating your branding because mine is different than yours. I don't know about you, but I don't see Freddy Fazbear in your branding. I don't see cherries in your branding anymore. I don't see arcade carpet in your branding. I don't even see checker, white and black checker in your branding, you know, and there's actually quite a few things that he's copied of mine. Like, for example, let me just talk about that. After I got banned, he debuted a new model that he called like his Aniki model, big brother, toxic older brother that likes to basically abuse, siblings. And good lord, the big cat pelt print that was purple and black, that was based off of the jacket I had on my 3D model. And he had the same necklace, or a very similar one with two silver chains. And he also finally put the ombre color in my hair that I've had since 2019 in, you know, many designs. Even my Milo branding, both of my Milo brandings had this color of hair with the ombre, with the peachy orange color. He put that on his model, in his hair, and he started having dark roots. Only after I did it, only after I got banned on Twitch, he debuted a new model that looked like mine to erase my existence. I hope at least one person can see how fucked up this whole situation has been. And I truly mean it when I say everything that I've been accused of, he has been the one to do it to me so much worse. I'm so tired. I'm angry. I'm upset that it's taken me so long to make this video. Let me rewind a little bit because I keep forgetting to unpack this bit. The fact he says selling sex on Twitch that is dehumanizing, because sex workers are already dehumanized and disrespected so often, especially in the VTuber space. It's disgusting how we're not respected, and the fact that, you know, the line of selling sex on Twitch, when I am like everybody else, I wanted a fun space that didn't have sex connected to my shit. I wanted wanted a place to play games and build a genuine community that wanted me there for my personality, my hobbies, the games I play, the fact that I sing, that I dance, the things I like, everything like that. And the fact that he's disrespecting me by dragging me through the mud, saying I'm selling sex on Twitch just because I have a fansly that I occasionally mention, like very rarely, because I literally forget to mention it when I was on Twitch. I'm there to have fun. I'm there to interact with my community and have fun and build connections and shit and make friends. The continuation of that sentence of me calling him out when I get banned. Why wouldn't I? You just want me to erase my existence after all the torment you've done to me and just give up. You were the one who started this. You were the one who got me banned. I have every right to stand up for myself, my right to be a creator on that platform, because I am there to provide support to people like me who deserve it, who need it more than ever. Twitch needs trans mask creators standing up for one another, and trans mask voices need to be heard. I wanted to be one of those voices on Twitch, and the fact that I got erased and discriminated against because I'm not societally acceptable is awful. I'm the one that is being dehumanized. He says he refuses to share space with this individual. He wants me gone. That was his intent with this whole document. It wasn't to call me out. It wasn't to communicate. It was to get rid of me and erase my existence. And that is unforgivable. That is disgusting. That is so malicious. He also does the olive branch thing where he mentions, if you see this and think kindly of me, if you find this situation unfair and feel badly for me. He's playing the victim card once again, trying to get more brownie points with everyone who is reading this document, to reach out to him, that he likes to make new connections, kind word from a genuine the fact that he's using these two identifier words is so, it's such a red flag. He is literally trying to appeal to a specific type of person so then he can get new victims to fuck with, and it's making me so mad. And then he also mentions him offering an olive branch to anyone who may originally falling on the other side of this. So if anyone who was on my side who wants to be on his side instead, oh my god, that is so manipulative. That is disgusting. He's even making space for people that he's blocked by saying, please send a mutual my way if you would like an unblock. He's doing anything to get anyone and everyone's support. We have reached the end of the document, and sorry, I have tears in my eyes even though you can't see them. I'm so incredibly drained. I just want to exist in this space like anybody else, and no one should have to compromise how they want to express themselves. If you're not impersonating anyone, not copying anything one-to-one, you do you, boo. It don't matter what anyone else has to say. I really hope that people can see through his lies and his deception, because to me it is so obvious and clear how manipulative it is. And I hope my explanations and screenshots of like definitions and examples of narcissistic abuse are eye-opening to people and explanatory. So I think my last message I want to leave for this video is, if you know any trans masks, please tell them you love them and that you appreciate their presence, because there was multiple days where I didn't know if I was going to be here tomorrow. To have someone tear down everything that means something to you and how you express yourself hurts like a bitch. He made me question everything about myself and everything I stood for, everything that gave me joy, my trans joy. I adored the journey I was on and how happy it was and how I could share that joy with so many different people that came in throughout my life. That's all I want to do with people, is share my joy and my support. And I hate how it was taken away from me just for existing and for how I looked, for how I am, the fact that I'm trans, and how it's seen as not valid enough, and that if I had done everything prior to him, this apparently wouldn't have been an issue. It's so gross. It's so transphobic. It's privileged. Please help trans masks that you know have their voice. Support them. Fight for them. Make their voices heard. Make them feel safe. You don't know when they may not be here anymore. Trans masks are erased from even trans conversations a lot of the time. That's why I believe this whole situation has been important for me to talk about and unpack finally, officially, because this shows just one situation in which narcissistic abuse can go unseen and unheard. You know, some people believe I don't deserve to exist and that I should give up being me to make a stranger on the internet feel better about themselves because they want to be the one and only Kainen. Anyone can be named Kainen. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I just wanted to share my truth with everybody and really make it known since it's been so long. I just really needed to speak up for myself because I deserve to have that stronger older brother that takes care of my inner child, and that's who I am being right now. I'm being my own older brother because no one else is. So again, thank you.